Hello, can you hear me?
Indeed, the Lord will watch our ways. He will be present. He will take care of us. He will wipe all the tears in our eyes. And I am very confident that this is possible in your life. And so if this morning you're feeling broken, Jah shall wash away all the tears from our eyes. And I pray that that is your story this morning. You're welcome back from that break. This is still the AM Club coming to you live from the MX24 studios, Oleander Street, East Legon, Accra, Ghana. My name is Miriam Udwak Menta, and this is the Lifestyle Daily segment of the AM Club show. Today, we're going to be getting into something, some big conversations. And I always tell you that on Thursdays, we delve deeper into matters that concern our health and wellness, and we make sure that we do justice to the conversation. So much so that you leave even right long after this conversation, you're still thinking about how to take care of yourself, okay? I want to say a big thank you to Telecel Cash. You're protected every step of the way. No worries, no risk, no worries, no long stories, just peace of mind. Dial *110# or download the Telecel Play app now for secure transactions. Telecel Cash, you're protected every step of the way. Remember this, Telecel Cash, it says, send the keke. It is the safer choice. Now, Ebenezer thus far, the Lord has helped us. The countdown is on. We have been having an incredible time in the presence of the Lord at Ultimate Charismatic Center as we celebrate 25 years of ministry, and it has been beautiful. Started last Sunday. Yesterday, Papa Eastwood Anaba took the microphone, and it was an incredible time in the presence of the Lord. He reminded us of how important it is to come back to what God wanted the church to be. He said, leave the building. The building is not part of the church. It is just a place that houses people that right now are possessed with demons. People who have turned the church place into a marketplace. People who have turned the church into a place where sin abounds. But let's go back to the old rugged cross, where we're broken but we're in right standing with Christ. And I think the education continues. Your Ebenezer awaits you at this conference. Tonight it continues at 6 p.m. at Ultimate Charismatic Center, Dome Pillar 2. Just put it in your Google map. It will bring you right there. Papa E is on again tonight. And so do join us as we celebrate the goodness of the Lord, but also as we also encounter Christ for ourselves and start a whole new journey to become the best Christian you could ever be. Your Ebenezer testimony awaits you at Ultimate Charismatic Center. Now, for our big conversation, let's talk hepatitis. Yes, we're talking prevention, testing, and treatment. And joining us for the conversation this morning is Dr. Claudia Sewa JC Sarkodie. She is a medical doctor. Good morning, Doc. Good morning, Doc. Please, can you unmute for me?
Good morning.
Good morning, beautiful. How are you doing, Doc?
I'm doing amazing. How are you too?
I'm very well, thank you. We're about to get into this conversation, but before we delve into it, in recognition of the World Hepatitis Day, today's health segment shines a spotlight on hepatitis, a preventable and in many cases treatable disease that people, have very little knowledge about. So we're going to be getting into that pretty shortly. But before we delve deeper, let's start from the surface, where we're scratching the actual surface of this entire conversation. When you say hepatitis or hepatitis B, as everybody knows it, because everybody thinks, or many people think, the disease is hepatitis B, but apparently there are variations in this disease. And so can you educate us a little bit on what hepatitis is and why World Hepatitis Day is important?
Okay, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's truly a pleasure to be here.
We are honored to have
I
you.
think the best place to start is with the word itself. because, like you said, many people have heard the word hepatitis, but they don't know what it actually means.
Yes.
So the word is divided into two: hepato and itis. Hepato meaning the liver, and itis meaning inflammation.
Okay.
So basically, hepatitis is inflammation of the liver, right? And so on the 28th of July every year, we pause to remind people that hepatitis is a major public health concern, and it's something we can also fight, because we realize a lot of people assume that once you have hepatitis, that's the end of the world, but that's not it. So it's a day to just encourage people to get tested, get vaccinated, and where vaccines are available, of course, seek treatment early, and most importantly, understand that hepatitis is not something to be ashamed of.
Okay. Right.
You.
Now, we do hear the R variation, like I mentioned earlier. What are the different types of hepatitis and how do they differ from each other?
Okay, I'm really glad you asked this, because outside I always hear hepatitis B, hepatitis
Yes,
B, hepatitis
yes,
B.
yes.
But we have different types.
Okay.
So we have the hepatitis A, hepatitis B, C, D, and E. So there are 5 variations.
Okay.
It's not just hepatitis B. Right, so they vary from each other. So we have the hepatitis A and B, they are similar, so I'll talk about them together.
Okay.
They are usually spread through contaminated food and water, so through the fecal-oral routes. They can also be spread through, eating contaminated food, drinking contaminated water. So if you have food containing the virus and you take it in, automatically you are infected. That's for hepatitis A and hepatitis C. But then the good news about hepatitis A and then E is that most people recover completely without even developing long-term liver disease. Okay. We have the hepatitis B and C, which are also quite similar, so I'll talk about them together. They spread mainly through infected blood, and hepatitis B can also be spread through other bodily fluids. Okay. So semen and other bodily fluids you can think of. They can remain in the body for many years. So we usually term these two as chronic hepatitis. So anything in the body for more than 6 months is termed chronic. So we just term it as chronic hepatitis, basically. So during that time, the virus may just quietly damage the liver. So it will increase the risk of cirrhosis. When I say cirrhosis, it's just scarring of the liver. So, when you get hit and then the wound heals, you have a scar. Yeah. So cirrhosis is a term for scarring of the liver. So once the virus affects the liver, it's just causing insults to it. At a point, it gets some scars. So the medical term is cirrhosis, right? And at a point, liver cancer if it's not treated. Then there is the hepatitis D, which is quite unique as compared to the rest because it only affects somebody who has hepatitis B. So hepatitis B can only affect somebody who has hepatitis B. Okay. So one of the best ways to prevent hepatitis D is by preventing hepatitis B. Okay. And luckily for us, we can prevent hepatitis B by getting vaccinated. Yes. Okay. So these are the types with the variations.
Now, we've talked about how they are transmitted and who is at risk.
Yeah.
We've talked about how it is transmitted, but not about who is at risk. So let's talk about who is at risk at getting hepatitis.
Okay, so I think this is a very important question because a lot of people understand how, because I think once people understand how hepatitis spreads, they can also understand how to prevent it because a lot of people do not know how to prevent hepatitis. So for people who are at a high risk of getting it, we have healthcare workers especially because they are exposed to blood, other bodily fluids, they are exposed to sharp objects. So imagine you pricking somebody and then getting pricked as well. The person has hepatitis any form and then let's say hepatitis B and then you get pricked as well. So automatically you get it. Yeah. So we have healthcare workers, people exposed to infected blood. We have babies even born to mothers with hepatitis B because they are exposed to the mother's bodily fluids as well. People who inject drugs because you are piercing a sharp object into your body. So imagine you have a needle and then you are piercing yourself. You want to let it administer a drug because you've been abusing substances. Let's put it that way. and someone else had already picked up the needle to inject himself or herself and was affected with the hepatitis B, automatically you get infected as well, right? So anyone practicing unprotected sex, because with that you're also exposed to the other person's bodily fluids. Imagine the person has hepatitis or any other form of hepatitis, or with the ones that can be transmitted via the bodily fluids, you get it as well. So these are some of the people who are at a higher risk of getting hepatitis.
Okay, right. Now, let's talk symptoms. How do I know that, I have hepatitis, and what are the signs?
Yeah. This is an excellent question. I was waiting for this particular one because a lot of people think once they are walking outside, they are fine, they're able to carry on with their daily activities, run errands, they are okay, they are healthy. But I mean, a lot of people say hepatitis is a silent disease, right? So people start experiencing signs and symptoms when the disease has progressed. So they can start by experiencing persistent tiredness, or they may feel unusually weak. They may have loss of appetite as well, which we term as anorexia. There could be nausea, vomiting, fever, or even discomfort or pain on the right upper side of the abdomen. So you take your abdomen, the right upper side, because that is where the liver is. So if there's a problem with the liver, you definitely have pain over there. Your urine could be dark colored. So we usually term it as Coca-Cola like urine. So when they come to the hospital and we are suspecting any form of hepatitis, we ask them for their color of the urine. So we ask them, is it like Coca-Cola or tea? And when they say yes, we know that, okay, it probably has something to do with the liver. They could also have pale colored stools. The normal color of stool, which is, let me just say, feces, is dark brown or brown. But then with people with hepatitis, it's quite pale, the color. They could.
We can't hear you any longer. No, I can't hear you still. No. I see your lips. Okay, so obviously technology has stepped in to stress us a little bit. Okay, so I can hear you now. I can hear you now. Please come back.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
So I was saying that usually when they come to the hospital, we look out for scratch marks on the skin because people with hepatitis or people with any form of liver condition could have itchiness of the skin. And jaundice. So jaundice is basically yellowing of the eyes. So you see the whitish part of the eye becomes yellow, and the skin also becomes yellow, especially for light-colored people. So you could see that their skin gets yellow. For the dark-skinned people, we just look at the eyes because it's easier to tell that way. So we just check the eyes and then we realize they are yellow. So these are some of the signs and symptoms of hepatitis.
Hepatitis. Okay. Now, in protecting ourselves, how do we then start? Because we're entering into the space of prevention. In protecting ourselves, what do we do to prevent hepatitis or the spread of it?
Okay, so for the prevention of hepatitis, it's quite simple. Your sanitation, just ensure that you have good hygiene practices. So you wash your hands properly before eating. You make sure that when you're making your meals, they are done in good conditions. You don't just do them anywhere. You also have to practice safe, protected sex because unprotected sex could also cause hepatitis. You could get exposed to the person's bodily fluids and then get infected as well. You also need to ensure that you dispose sharp objects adequately because if you use a sharp object and then you leave it there, assuming you have the hepatitis virus in you of them, and then the ones that can be transmitted through blood, of course, and then you leave the sharp object there and someone else picks it and then gets pricked, automatically the person gets infected as well. So you just need to ensure that you have good hygiene practices, you dispose of sharp objects, and then when you are going, in case you need to get transfused with blood, you need to make sure that the blood is properly screened to ensure that the person who donated the blood doesn't have the virus in any shape, form, or way. so that you know that you are safe to take the blood.
Okay. Awesome. How about vaccines?
Pardon me?
Do we have vaccination for hepatitis?
Yes, we do. So we have vaccines for hepatitis B. So usually what we like to do is for pregnant women, when they go to the antenatal, for the antenatal visits and all these things, we just make sure that we give them the vaccine. And then, I mean, adults can also take it. That's why we try to create awareness so that you don't just wait until it's very, very bad until you realize that, oh, you could have actually gotten a vaccine for hepatitis B. So then we do have vaccines, but not for all of them, but for hepatitis B.
Now, so hepatitis has become one of those diseases that you randomly have to just go and check if you have it.
Pardon me?
I said hepatitis has become one of those diseases that you randomly just go to the hospital and check, like, do I have hepatitis? Is that what you recommend?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, when someone, takes that bold step to go and check, and then you find out that they actually do have the disease, what are the treatment procedures?
What are the
treatments for hepatitis?
Okay, so for the treatment, once you get tested and then you see that once somebody gets tested and then we realize the person has the hepatitis virus. So for hepatitis A and E specifically, a lot of people tend to recover completely. So treatment for these two is focused more on supporting the body to fight against the infection. So we just encourage the person to have adequate rest, good nutrition. The patient should stay hydrated, and then we just monitor the patient to monitor the viral load to ensure that the body has the strength and the capacity to fight the infection. For hepatitis B, the approach usually depends on the individual. So some people are able to control the infection without immediate medication, right? While others may need antiviral medications for that. So these medications, they just help suppress the virus and then also reduce the risk of liver damage. So the activities of the virus are suppressed because the virus, they attack the liver. So we just suppress their activities. So the damage to the liver decreases, right? For hepatitis C, the good news is it can be cured.
Okay.
So we have the modern direct-acting antiviral medicines that are medications usually designed to specifically stop the virus from multiplying. So these medications target the virus and then ensure that they do not multiply as fast as they should. So most people usually get cured from this one.
Okay. Right.
But I think beyond the medication, one of the most important parts of treatment is protecting the liver, of course. So aside the medications and everything we give, excessive alcohol intake should be stopped. So if you take alcohol, if you are always taking alcohol, you need to stop. And then you also need to stop taking unnecessary medications or substances because the liver tends to, aside the virus attacking the liver has its own functions. It does a lot for the body. So usually when we take medications, they go through the liver. The liver tends to process the medications. So you do not want to put a lot of stress on the liver. So if you do not need any medication, it's not advisable that you take it because the liver needs to rest, in quotes.
Okay.
Get it? So yeah. We also need to maintain a healthy lifestyle, ensure you are eating well, a lot of fruits, vegetables. You're not just taking anything in because you want to. And you also need to keep regular appointments with your healthcare provider to ensure that the medications we are giving, they are working, and then also to ensure that your body is fighting the virus as expected or as it should.
Now, just like with many diseases, there are myths and misconceptions about them. What are some of the myths and misconceptions about hepatitis B or hepatitis? You see, I went straight to the B. You heard that? I went straight to the hepatitis, and ones that you would want people to stop believing.
Okay, I'm very glad you asked these questions because sometimes we have certain challenges when handling hepatitis. So I think One of the myths would be the fact that hepatitis is caused by only bad behavior or immoral lifestyles. This is something we sometimes hear, and
Yeah.
it's important to correct it because hepatitis is an infection and anybody can be affected.
Yeah.
Anyone at all can be affected as long as you're exposed to anything, even if you are not practicing unprotected sex. There are other ways. You might end up getting transfused, you might end up getting pricked. So anybody can be infected. So it's not just about immoral lifestyles. So that is false. I think another myth would be the fact that if someone has hepatitis, you can catch it by sharing food or even hugging the person or sitting close to them. That is also false because hepatitis B and C are not spread through casual contact. You cannot get them from shaking hands or hugging or even sharing a plate of food. Another one is people say, oh, once they feel healthy, they cannot have hepatitis because their body will protect them. That is not entirely true because, and I think that's one of the most dangerous misconceptions about it because hepatitis is a silent disease. It's very silent. People are walking outside with the virus, but they don't know because they feel healthy. And that's because the liver is a very interesting organ. It can repair itself and regenerate. That's why usually when people are going for liver transplants, there's this thing they use, oh, the liver will grow back. So like they cut a portion of it and then give it to somebody, and then because they know that the donor's liver will grow back, right? So the liver is a very forgiving organ, if I'm being honest. So when a lot of harm is done to it, it tries to fix it itself. You
Okay.
get it? So once someone is infected with the virus, they will be fine. They will be okay until a lot of damage has been done and the liver can no longer compensate. That is when they start experiencing the symptoms I mentioned earlier.
Okay. Okay.
So if you feel healthy, it doesn't mean you can't have it. You might even have virus, but you do not know. So this misconception is very, very dangerous because people do not focus on it. I mean, people run tests, blood pressures, blood sugars, and things, but they forget about the liver because they think they are healthy.
Yeah.
Yes. Another one would be the fact that having hepatitis means there's no hope. That is false because today we have vaccines, like I mentioned earlier, that prevent some of the types of hepatitis and then treatments for some of them as well. So if you are infected, it doesn't mean there is no hope. It doesn't mean you are going to die. These are some of the myths I have encountered as a medical doctor.
Okay. Alrighty. Now, what message would you like to share with Ghanaians on this World Hepatitis Day about prevention testing and eliminating hepatitis completely from our society?
It's my message to everyone watching today. Pardon me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, so my message to everyone watching today is one of awareness, hope, and action. Hepatitis is a disease we should take seriously, but it's not a disease we should be afraid of. It's something we can prevent, detect early, and in many cases successfully treat. So I encourage everyone to know that their hepatitis status, sorry. So sometimes we are very uncomfortable checking our hepatitis status because we think, oh, we might be positive. And then once we get tested and we are positive, that's the end of the world. No. I mean, if we are comfortable checking our blood pressures, our blood sugars, and other health checks, we should not be scared of checking our hepatitis status. And I believe a simple test can provide information that may protect your health for years to come. And to parents, I encourage you to ensure your children receive their recommended vaccinations, especially the hepatitis B vaccine. It is very, very important. And to pregnant women, please attend antenatal care and allow healthcare providers screen you because early identification helps us protect both you and your unborn children. And to everybody, avoid sharing sharp objects, practice safe habits, and don't be scared of getting tested. There's a lot of stigma around hepatitis, but do not be scared of getting tested because at the end of the day, you need to be treated and be protected. And to anybody living with hepatitis, you are not alone and you are not defined by your diagnosis. With proper care and support, many people live long and fulfilling lives.
Alrighty, Doc. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Dr. Claudia joined us this morning to have a conversation on hepatitis, its treatments, and of course, testing as well. And I think we have had an extensive conversation on this and education. I hope that we're going to do, due diligence. We're going to take care of ourselves. We're going to make sure that we're adhering to her advice this morning. Thank you so much, Doc, for coming. Dr. Claudia Sarkodie was our resource person for this morning on the conversation of hepatitis. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Now, also, we do have more coming up here on the show, so stay right here with us. We'll be right back after this.